Back in studio with the guys, so much to sink our teeth into coming off of this one. It wasn't the cleanest game of football. It wasn't the highest level of execution we've seen this week. But, man, Baker Mayfield has a way of entertaining Bryant McFadden. What'd you see from him down the stretch?
Baker Mayfield is the epitome of grit and courage and heart. That is who he is, and that is what we saw from Baker Mayfield in critical moments where they needed him, the Buccaneers that is, they needed Baker to be at his best. That 4th and 10 play, that all-out blitz, there's no way in the world Baker was supposed to be able to evade an open defender and not only convert the first down, but get positive yards down the football field, and to have the composure to rally the troops, getting them back to the line of scrimmage, and orchestrate a game-winning drive. I mean, we saw the same thing similar to tonight, last week against Atlanta, and he never blinked. And I know we're in week 2, guys, but when you look at what Baker has done in Tampa currently, going back to a year ago, and how he is starting the football season this year, you have to have his name in that early MVP conversation, my goodness, because he is unbelievable. And they're doing so being shorthanded. And you still don't, you don't talk about the guys that are not there. You talk about the guys that are making plays, and it starts and it stops with Baker Mayfield.
Remember in the pregame we talked about whether this was real for him in terms of what it means in regards to him not winning more than one game in a primetime setting? Well, this performance showed you how much it meant to Baker Mayfield because he laid it all out on the line. You would have thought this was a playoff game. This is week 2, and Baker Mayfield's out there fighting guys, going through bad ankles, taking shots in the chest, scrambling.
They took his chain off.
Took his chain off. Grabbed him in the yoke and threw him down. Baker went out there and balled out in week 2. So this bodes well. And how they won this ball game, guys, this was a total team win. So this not only bodes well for Baker and getting that monkey off his back and winning those primetime games, but also bodes well for Tampa. We went out there to Houston and out-physicaled the physical Houston Texans.
I just see a guy who refuses to accept defeat until there's zeros on the clock. Emeka Egbuka down the field on that drive, supposed to be the big splash on 3rd down that keeps that drive going. He drops a pass that maybe was a little bit up the field. Other quarterbacks, other offenses, they're deterred by those sorts of things. They lose the air in their sails. Baker just keeps plugging forward. For as good as he was in the biggest moments in this game, there were inefficiencies. I think offensively, my eyes, if we look at this as 60 minutes of football, I'm most impressed by the run game of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this one. How big was that in a game where neither offensive line comported themselves all that great in the pass game?
Rachaad White and Bucky Irvin saved the day for Tampa Bay in all aspects of offense. Running the ball, catching the ball, and blocking. And we saw Rachaad White recover the fumble that was a crucial fumble in that ball game as Baker was trying to break outside and out of contain and scramble. He kind of fumbled himself, and Rachaad White jumped on the football, got hurt in the process, came back to score the game-winning touchdown. How big was Bucky Irving on that drive? The score the game-winning points. He was running the football rather well, made a couple of guys miss in space, and was doing above and beyond the call of duty to help his team win. We saw 2 good blitz pickups by both of these guys at times. So the running backs today definitely did their thing and helped these guys win.
I just love how they can coexist nicely in the backfield, play complementary football, 2 styles of runners, but they both do something and give something different to the offense. Today, 169 yards on the ground, almost 6 yards per carry. That's winning football in a day where your offensive line was much maligned because of injuries, and they lost guys in this ball game. So when you look at how vulnerable that unit was, it was the running game that kept the team afloat offensively, and then they started to make timely plays. So when you talk about Bucky Irvin, Rachaad White, I mean, you look at the duo of running backs in the National Football League, there are quite a few outstanding duos, but this is a duo right here, especially in the NFC South. I mean, they really get things rolling for their offense, and you can't forget about Baker Mayfield because he added some rushing yards as well. Every yard was definitely needed for this huge win for the Buccaneers.
What's interesting, Joe, is the fact that we're talking about a running game that has a back that's 195 and Rachaad White is about 205. This is not a big bruising backfield. These guys went there and went toe-to-toe with that Texans defensive front seven.
Looking at 71 for Irving, 65 for White, another 33 to your point for Mayfield, 5.5 around that neighborhood per pop for the Buccaneers in the running game in what was a low-scoring affair between these two, but able to control the game in certain moments. They're gonna have some special teams meetings in Tampa Bay after this one. They left some meat on the bone in that aspect, but a thought here on the Houston Texans and their quarterback, because we've made a big deal about the offensive line, the failure in front of C.J. Stroud, but he had some clean pockets to operate in tonight. It wasn't throughout this game. He was pressured in it, but you're still not seeing the level of execution you'd expect coming off of that rookie year. The sophomore, I wouldn't call it slump. And now in year 3, are we getting everything we should be from C.J. Stroud, Emory?
Not yet. It does, as we have seen over the course of his career, the first 2 years, it does take him some time to get going, right? We saw him play better toward the back end of last season. His rookie year looks like the anomaly, but it still seems as if he has to get things going. And that's why the sack number is never always on the offensive line. Half that number is also on the quarterback. At times, he ran himself into a couple of sacks in his ball game. And the near interception that was dropped by, 2 Buccaneers?
That makes you worry.
That'd be like, why would you throw that football? That concerns me. And I know you need to run the game to help you out. But sometimes when the ball snaps, the players, regardless of the play, you control the ball where the ball is going.
It's hard to miss Vita Vea standing next to Levante David with no wide receivers in the neighborhood. Those are the ones that make you worry a little bit, Mac.
I think it's safe to say CJ, that is, and this is just my assumption, I don't think he trusts the offensive lineman at all. Because at moments, his feet got happy when the pocket was still fairly comfortable. It was almost like he had happy feet because they have really been horrendous. And remember what I said during the pregame show? I still did not understand the decision to move on from Laramie Tunsil when he was your best offensive lineman on a bad unit a year ago. Option B currently this year is not better than option A, who was Laramie Tunsil. And we're starting to see the ramifications of that move surface before all of our eyes. And then another thing with C.J. Stroud, when you look at the comparison with Baker Mayfield, because both quarterbacks was heavily harassed, but Baker Mayfield handles pressure a little bit better than C.J. Stroud because he doesn't mind becoming a +1 in the running game. He doesn't mind becoming a running back, right?
Fourth
down. He became a running back. Even when he fumbled the football when Rashard White recovered, he was already in running back mode right there mentally.
And he was trying to go get the ball, too.
Yeah, he was trying to go get the ball. So when you have a quarterback that does not mind becoming a running back with the football, it actually helps the offensive line a little bit when they lose their one-on-one matchups. C.J. Stroud, and another thing I said, we need to see C.J. Stroud, especially with this offensive line unit that has been struggling. Go back to the C.J. Stroud at Ohio State when he played against Georgia. When he was running the football, improvising, whatever the case may be, he has that in his game. And until they become a better unit, he has to be more inclined to run the football because I don't see them becoming a better blocking unit anytime soon. This is just who they are, and he has to get used to this new lifestyle and just become more of a running with the football because they're not going to protect him.
And to your point, Joe, about what looked different about C.J. Stroud, him and Baker Mayfield Mayfield had 9 yards more than Stroud, but the passing game looked completely different.
Yeah. You want improvisation. Look no further than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On a week-to-week basis, it's always thrilling. And this Monday night, no exception to that rule. The rule of the day is Baker Mayfield always wins.
Shout out to Testaverde.
Always, but he finds himself climbing up this career passing touchdowns list in Buccaneers history. Baker Mayfield, it's long established, has found his spot and continues to execute when given the opportunity. All right, the Buccaneers, they might be our new team of calamity. You never know what's going to happen. It might be good. It might go awry. But in these first 2 games, it surely has been entertaining, and they've ended in the win column as they take down the Falcons in week 1 with Baker leading a drive, throwing a touchdown pass inside a minute. It's Rashard White on the ground after a couple big Baker plays again in the fourth quarter. The cardiac Tampa Bay Buccaneers offer another one for your excitement. Back in studio with the guys, Emory Hunt, Bryant, McFadden, for further exploration here. And just running through the highlight, that was all sorts of exciting for a multitude of different reasons. But let's do some tape assessment here. Let's try and figure out where these teams can be better, because the Buccaneers in that third phase, Mac, whether it's getting a punt blocked, whether it's committing penalties, whether it's offering extra sets of downs, the special teams needs to get cleaned up for the winning team tonight.
Yeah, at moments in that ball game, it felt like Tampa Bay's special teams unit was working with the enemy, and that's working with the Houston Texans, because they were literally trying to blow the game. When you talk about the missed field goal, a makeable field goal, when you talk about having a punt block that led to a field goal attempt that gave the Texans the lead, when you talked about allowing a massive return for the Houston Texans, all of those things felt like they were happening back to back to back. right? And if you're the special teams unit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you have to feel some way, even though you still won, because you need to be better. And then outside of those miscues on the special team side, Emory, they got to get healthy on the offensive line. That's the thing. Like, I don't mind seeing shake and bake when it's shake and bake time, but you want to be able to protect your quarterback better than what you did tonight. And I understand you're working with backups, but yet and still, you got to find a way to get the job done, because you might not be as lucky as you were tonight when you're playing against playoff caliber teams that have a complete team effort when you're down a few offensive linemen.
Especially on the other side of the ball, when you probably are dealing with an offense that doesn't have the mental mistakes and physical mistakes that we saw the Houston Texans have. But I got to give a shout out to Cody Mock. He came in after another offensive lineman got injured and played really well on the left side and actually had some success in blocking up defensive ends. So I thought, based off the situation, he came in, played really well.
Yeah.
But special teams wise, you got to get better. And I'm a Coach Thomas McGahee guy. I love how he coaches special teams. I give a shout out to Dixon for being out there and trying to make that tackle. But I know Coach McGahee's going to get those guys tightened up this upcoming week.
Some hard coaching on the way, maybe. It's always great to learn within a win. The Buccaneers get to do that in the third phase. On the other side of this one, I want to go broader on Houston. When you look at this version of the Texans, obviously not full form. We've seen 120 minutes of football this season, but some of the things that plagued them a year ago, plaguing them once again, their inefficiencies up front. What is their role in this narrative we call the NFL this season? It's a division where you can push your foot around a little bit and still find yourself in prime position come playoff time. But when you look at them and you project them down the road, what is Houston's role?
They're going to have to be defensive-led until the offense figures things out, because we've seen the offense find some success with some of their receivers, but as a total, they're not able to run the football. Their offensive line is in shambles, and without that type of continuity or something that can hang their hats on offensively, it's going to be a problem. And what we used to say about Houston the last couple of years, the division is not that good. They can easily, find themselves winning 8 games or 9 games, getting to the postseason. Well, the division got significantly better in the offseason. Indy looks like a real player in the division.
That's the one I'd point to. That's the one I'd worry about if I'm the Houston Texans.
Jacksonville got better. They're going to be competitive, and the Tennessee Titans competes every game. So it's not going to be as easy of a run. So they have to find a way to start being able to run the football and protect C.J. Stroud.
And with how bad their offensive line has been in 2 weeks of play, the teams that you just highlighted in their division, they got to be licking their chops. Because every moment is a moment that you could put pressure on C.J. Stroud and really be in a position to win this ball game. So the offensive line has been a concern for me before tonight's matchup, and they're continuing to, prove those concerns to be right.
Yeah.
Outside of that, guys, they got to get healthy. Eventually, you got to get Joe Mixon back. You got to get Christian Kirk back. You got to get some of these guys back that can help become playmakers on the offensive end, because right now with the offensive line being who they are, I don't see them improving anytime soon.
I was going to ask you, how do you get that right in the course of a season when it's going the way it is for an offensive line? What is the coaching point when your job is to stop the greatest athletes in the world while moving backwards and you just can't find a way to do it?
I feel personally one of the main key ingredients for improving an offensive line when your personnel is going to be the same is utilize tempo. Like, sometimes it's okay to admit that we're not good enough to protect huddling up. So let's go ahead and utilize tempo and go fast. So there lies the opportunity to kind of catch the defenders on their heels.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of teams used to do against us when I played with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because we always had 2 dominant edge rushers. And most teams didn't have 2 dominant tackles that can protect our said edge rushers. So what they would do is spread us out and go fast. So what happens when they spread us out, that forces us to go in more of a zone concept where we were either rushing 3 or 4 guys. And that helps the offensive line. I say that all the time. When we're watching football, Joe Emory, utilize tempo. When you can't protect and huddling, utilize tempo and spread them out, because that could really help you in terms of dinking and dunking and establishing the rhythm.
And when you're playing mostly 3-4 defenses, when you spread the formation, it's easy to identify where that 4th and 5th rusher is coming from.
Yes, it's a great success story in terms of changing the dynamics of what you're not doing well, and hopefully they find a way to incorporate that, because the personnel is going to be the personnel. Yeah. Right? It is what it is. So you got to find ways, strategy-wise, to be able to be better in protecting your young quarterback. Because if you do not protect C.J. Stroud, he won't get back to being the C.J. of his rookie year where he was outstanding and tearing up the league.
Let's think in more play in Houston. Got to get in that tape, got to figure some things out, and got to get more stout up front. Fellas, thank you. A look here at some numbers. Most passing touchdowns since 2023. Baker Mayfield leading the world. Mayfield also leading the NFL in fourth quarter touchdown passes. The man continues to deliver in the biggest moments.